Hey guys, what's up? I'm here with a new set of acquisitions. I just got back from a very exciting day at the Star City Games tournament in Baltimore, where I managed to pick up some pretty cool new cards. And I also did well enough, not that well, but well enough that I was able to get, we're now at 4 binders. So this goes all the way from Urza's Legacy to Theros at the end of this one. So we're doing pretty well. I estimate we'll need about 2 to 3 more binders before we will be able to have the entire chronology sorted out, which is good. That's a good step. That means I can get them out of some of these boxes I have lying around. Now, that was obviously one of the cool things about going there. I just spent the last hour and a half going through and sorting my existing cards, putting them in there. It's not really exciting to watch, so I didn't bother filming that, but I did want to show you guys today's acquisitions. Now, about most of the stack is stuff I ordered online from Star City Games, and this is not endorsed or paid for them by any way. That's just the simple economics of it. But the rest of these I actually got from vendors there, and the 2 big acquisitions today were Arcane Laboratory and Counterspell. Now you notice these are from 7th edition, so these are the big tamales. These are ones that are extremely hard to find anywhere else online. This is a set that didn't have a very large print run to begin with. That's back when core sets weren't as popular as they are now. And in addition to that, the rate for foils was much lower than it is now. I believe 1 out of every 100 cards was a foil, and I think now it's something like 1 in 70. And then with the master sets, that changes the whole dynamic for those because they have a foil in every pack. So you get a little bit counterbalance there for the low print run for those. And then of course, for a lot of the modern sets, they also have with Redemption online. Magic Online, you can trade in a set of the online foils and you can get full set of the foils for a set there, which is where we're gonna need a lot of the stock in the future. A lot of the future sets have a much less problem with supply simply because of that. But 7th edition was right on the cusp. It was, I believe, one of the last sets to be released before they released Magic the Gathering Online. And because of that, they weren't included, or they were just barely included in the redemption program. And so as a result, these are extremely hard to find. I'll go into a separate video later about 7th edition in particular. There's some really interesting stuff about collecting these that you guys might find interesting. But I wanted to highlight these because I'm actually pretty stoked I managed to get them. These are 2 examples of cards that are going to be hard to find. And you notice that, Counterspell is a common, which should count in our favor, of course, but it's Counterspell. So as you can imagine, pretty popular. A little easier to find, and just to highlight the sort of, supply issues between these 2, I also picked up the Mirrodin Masks Counterspell today. Same card, same functionality, but this was roughly twice as much as this. And that's partly because, people like the art, people like the lack of flavor text, but a huge factor in that is scarcity. These are way rarer, way harder to find than these. As I said, we'll get into that in this future video. The rest of the acquisitions today that I want to highlight are sort of the second batch is things I also picked up from vendors there. So we managed to get a few missing holes in what we were looking for. Now, because I got these, I avoided making big purchases on something like, an Urza's Legacy Tinker. There was an Urza's Destiny Opposition there for 40 bucks, which, when I'd already bought all this other stuff, that was a little steep for me. So I managed to pick up this because it was about, I think, 20 bucks. And then the rest of these were either, 10 or below each. So that's another one down from Mirrodin Masks. We have also, these 3 sets, the Odyssey block and the Onslaught block. So this is from Judgment, this is from Torment, this is from Onslaught. These are going to be a little easier to find. This is a set that we're going to have a lot easier time getting copies of, mainly because, as I mentioned, we don't have the same scarcity issues that we have with some of the early sets. But I believe this is around the time they start tinkering with the drop rate for these, the frequency with which they occur. Now, Invasion still was, I believe, in the 1 to 100 era, so these are going to be a little harder to find to scarcity. And also, Invasion was really popular. And it kind of cuts both ways, because Invasion was, like I said, pretty popular, but that means that the cards themselves are more popular. So you have more supply, but you also have more demand, and I think that kind of balances out. So those are the old border ones I picked up today at the tournament. And then I also picked up two that caught my eye here that were relatively cheap. These were, I believe, each less than $5, which for Master of Ethereum was basically a steal. And for Guile, you know, nowadays when I see a Lorwyn foil that's lower than I expect it to be, I pick it up because Lorwyn and this is another block that we'll get to talking about later, where we have a lot of scarcity issues simply because of the low print run. Alara, not so much. And by God, see this, you know, the old borders, as you know, no art foil, no text box foil. Text box foil, which we don't care about, but the art, I mean, God, look at that. And this is when they do the artifact creature blue border that I believe we only see for the Alara block. And my God, that just shines really well. As you can tell, it's just, you know, it's a little darker. Obviously it's darker than you see with the normal one, but it's a much like, you know, it's a very nice dark. And it's a dark in sense of, you know, the actual pigment. The shine is still just as shiny, and that's a problem we're going to run into, and I'll get into that in a future video with Lorwyn block foils, where the foiling itself just darkened the whole card. You know, you want them to be brighter, but instead they got darker. So yeah, those were the big ones there. And then I also pre-ordered some for pickup, and these are just cheap ones each. Hibernation, this one was about $15. I picked it up because it was, you know, they had it available, and whenever they have 7th edition available, I try to grab it as long as it's a reasonable price, as long as it's not too expensive. Simply because, as I said, scarcity. The rest are me trying to flesh out the Mirrodin block. As you see here, we've got Third Authority, Vedic Mastermind. We've got some from Fifth Dawn. I love these. And we got some from Darksteel. The Vedalken thing they do with like the head here and the pod here, I love that. That's great. This was a cool get. This one wasn't actually that expensive. As you can tell, it's not that great a card, but the foiling on it, man. I'm gonna have to do a whole separate video on Mirrodin foils because I think they're fantastic. So yeah, that's Mirrodin, and then we also have Kamigawa. This is another really cool set because, you know, we have the original foils, these classic borders, no art, no text box, and then starting in 8th edition, as we mentioned in an earlier video, that starts to shift away, and we have it so that the art is foiled too. And boy, when they started doing that, first with Mirrodin's block and then with Kamigawa block, they went all out. I mean, you know, with Mirrodin, what they do, especially with the blues, is they are able to do the little details here on the robots. You know, these sort of things like that just really stand out, and it gives it a whole nother layer of authenticity. I mean, if you're going to do foils in the art, a metal-based world is just perfect for it. And you know, you'd think going to Kamigawa might be a little harder because Kamigawa is not really known for its, you know, artifacts. But it turns out that, you know, you can do cool things with the spirits. And I think this is a set where they really did a good job of using the art really well to sort of foil it up. I mean, this isn't a good example. This is kind of mundane. But here we go, stream of consciousness. You know, the ability to sort of do it with that magic, that's something that just really stands out. And also what we start to see, and we don't really get to see much more of this in particular until the Lorwyn block. What we see is a lot of balancing, and I don't know if you can tell, but some of this is foiled more heavily than the others. You see this water or air here, but this tree branch is not. And what it does is it creates a contrast effect that's just really cool looking. Peer through depths, everybody's favorite. Squelch. So this is the downside of this era, is that they hadn't yet figured out how to do it for backgrounds. And in a sense, you almost get over-foiling. I think these are two really good examples of it. Part of this is driven by the art. You know, the art itself here doesn't really lend itself to foiling, but you can see they didn't even bother to do beyond subtle shading differentiation. And we see that also with Peer Through the Depths. You know, I don't know how well you can tell in the video, but this basically just looks like a big sheet of foil with a bug stuck on it. So that's a little less appealing. But then you see they're also able to do some more balanced stuff. Here we go by about Saviors of Kamigawa. They're able to do these effects here. and I think it just looks great in some regards. See, when they get the detail down here on like the eyes and stuff, I love that. Scars of Mirrodin and Innistrad get really good at this detailing here. So yeah, I'm gonna put these all in the binder, and I think we're gonna see some pretty good progress on these sets. Thanks for tuning in. I think my next set of acquisitions is going to be looking at Time Spiral, which is an interesting set all of itself in terms of scarcity, in terms of sort of things they did differently. You know, that's the one where they go really wild with the card borders, and it leads to just some amazing looking stuff. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you guys. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope to see you guys again soon.